Welcome to the Worship Leader Next Door podcast. We're here to give encouragement and counsel and dig deep into the spiritual and practical issues encountered when leading others in expressions of musical worship. Wherever you are on your journey, we hope you find this a safe space, and we're excited to have you along for the ride.
Hey guys, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Worship Leader Next Door podcast. This is our first episode of season 1.
Season 1. We're going to have more than one season.
I know, we're speaking it out already that we are
That's
committing
great.
to this thing. We are excited. Hi, Jenna.
Hi, Katelyn. We're already so good at this.
I know, we're already so good. We're still getting all the technical stuff
working
worked
out the
out.
kinks,
We're
yeah.
working out the kinks as we go. That's the beauty of doing this and learning as we go. But we're so excited you guys are here. We're so excited to introduce ourselves. So thankful that you clicked on this specific episode. We know that there's so much content out there around worship, ministry, the church, and we are honored that you're here. We're going to make it worth your time.
Oh, yeah.
This is going to be funny.
For sure.
We're going to dive into any and every topic surrounding worship leading, worship leader culture, Christian culture.
Yeah.
We can make fun of ourselves.
We have great senses of humor.
We do. I think we do too.
I think we're funny. We think we're funny.
We do.
We hope
And
you think we're funny.
yes, we've been friends for like over a
Oh my gosh,
decade.
Yeah.
Around a decade this year.
Yeah.
And we're
So
excited
fun.
to share our experiences with you. We're excited to share who we are, who Jenna and I are, and why you're going to get something out of this podcast. If you're a worship leader in the church, if you're interested, if you're a pastor, if you're someone who serves at your local church, or who is just figuring out even just this Christian walk thing, like I think there's going to be nuggets in here for a lot of us. So welcome to the table.
Yeah. Should we dive in?
Let's dive in.
Yeah. I figured we should introduce ourselves, if
Yep.
we're going to start a podcast.
Absolutely.
People need to know who we are. Some of you might know us already, so this might be repeated information. But if not, welcome. Welcome to the club. So I'm going to share a little bit about where I'm coming from, and then Katelyn's going to share a little bit about where she's coming from, some of our story, how we got here, really. So without further ado, I'm going to...
Oh, before we jump into our stories, I wanted to talk a little bit about, so Jenna was kind enough to approach me earlier this year, and I don't want to take away your
No,
story,
you're
but
good.
she
Yeah.
felt led to kind of lean into this topic, to lean into having these conversations via podcast. This has Jenna's been a worship leader for years and years.
Yeah.
And we are based out of Nashville, Tennessee. If you didn't know this, we're recording actually from my niece's bedroom in
great.
Franklin,
That's
Tennessee. Me and my husband and our kids are house sitting right now, dog sitting. So we're at my sister-in-law's house. But this is what I love that we can do this from anywhere.
So fun. Yeah.
But we wanted to first share why we wanted to do this, why Jenna wanted to share,
Yeah.
her heart. I wanted to share mine of why we want to drop our voices into this huge bucket of content around this part of the church and this part of being in ministry specifically, walking with Jesus. And we want to bring our experiences to the table and just talk about things that maybe you don't typically hear on worship leading podcasts, and just talk about things that bring it all to the table, things that we're all navigating if you're a worship leader in the church, working day in and day out to provide a space and an environment for people to come encounter the Lord through music, and your leading team. So, Jenna, if you could just touch on what you're hoping people find in this podcast, and then we'll get more specific on what to expect, what you guys can expect from episodes, what we're going to be leaning into, just so you can kind of get an overview today, and then we'll get more in the nitty-gritty further episodes. So, Jenna,
Yes.
tell us the story behind why you wanted to do this.
Yeah. So I had a really great meeting with a Christian life coach, which
Love.
I feel sounds a little bit silly sometimes, because I don't need to do that. But I had such a great conversation with her, and she asked a lot of really good questions. And one of the questions was asking me about fear and do I have any dreams that I've had for a long time? And something else that she asked was, what are you missing out on by not jumping out, by living out of fear? What are you missing out on by living out of fear? And
Wow.
I was like, oh my goodness, she
great
wanted me
question.
to name things. And I'm like,
Wow.
okay, wow, specific things. Okay. And so I just had this realization that there's a lot of things on my heart. Really, I love encouraging people. I love coaching them.
Yes.
I love shepherding. And I've been leading worship. I've been in church ministry for such a long time, and I've been in so many different places and spaces that I felt like
situations,
definitely.
congregations, even in multiple cities.
And I've had lots of younger people coming up, like either people that have lived with us, we lived together at one time, that have lived with me I've been able to kind of coach through certain experiences and just coach them and discipling. Really, that's what I love doing. I love discipleship.
You like
so
walking hand in hand.
I do. I love
with
that.
women your age, younger than you.
Yeah, all kinds. Yeah.
Definitely.
So for sure, I was feeling like this is kind of a dream that I've always had to encourage and exhort people, especially toward Jesus and toward his beauty and just towards who he is. So I don't know. It was kind of interesting. I left that conversation with that coach and I was like, man, I feel like there's something I could talk about. If there's one thing I could talk about for hours and hours, it would be just my heart for leading worship. And like, I felt this really massive, just like desire to help the people, like you said, I think earlier, like people that are in the trenches, people that are just everyday worship leader that are just out there doing their thing in smaller churches and smaller spaces and big spaces, wherever they are. I just want to be there to help coach and encourage. And so really I thought, okay, well, how do I do that? I have a dream. If anyone's listening and wants to help me do this, that's great because it'd be amazing. But I have a dream to do like a touring retreat for worship leaders in small towns. Like they can all come to this one local place and then spend time there being equipped. Poured into spiritually, practically. Like practical things are really important as well. So really that was where it started for me. And then it was like, oh, I should start a podcast, which girl. I feel like everyone and their dog has started a podcast.
Everyone has, and that's okay. There's room at the table, right? If you want to start a podcast out there, start a podcast.
Yes, do it. It's what we're doing, and we're experimenting, and it's great.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's so fun. So that was really what led me here, and I thought about Katelyn, and we've been friends again for a long time, and I thought she has such a pure heart for worship, and just loves people so well. So I was like, I feel like she would be a good person to ask. So here we are.
So honored.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so fun. Yeah.
It is. And one thing that so Jenna and I have both lived in Nashville. How many years for you?
Oh gosh, 13.
13.
No, this year's 14.
14 years. Crazy. And then I've lived here 9.
Okay.
Almost 9 years.
Wow,
yeah, since 2015. Man, that is wild.
Yeah.
I feel so mature. No, it feels good though. It feels good to like get that time under your belt. And I would say that both Jenna and I have seen a lot. We've been in the epicenter of where a lot of beautiful songs for the church are birthed here in Nashville. We've been able to be immersed in the place where God has just really like done a lot to like a lot has come out of this city for the world, for the church. We've been able to be, had the privilege of being poured into by people that are writing these songs, by artists, being able to pour back into them, like in the positions we've been in as worship directors, worship pastoral positions. Like we've been immersed in this place where a lot of these voices that you typically hear on these podcasts, they're getting to like be a part of local churches that are our churches. But we kind of wanted to be the bridge between those people that we all look up to and admire and to the ones of us that are on Planning Center week in and week out. And we want to equip you. We want to be your buddy. We want like to create a table and a space for the worship leader next door, the one you might not hear their voice as much. And so I think that was something we felt was a need and just something really fun because there's just gems of leaders and people all over the place. And we felt like we were in a unique position to be immersed in the place where a lot of worship culture is being born and being fostered. And obviously all of you out there are in churches where you're nurturing and fostering your own communities. And we're getting songs. A lot of us are getting songs from your churches too. I mean, it's so cool how small the world is becoming. But we just want to like bridge that gap, and we're excited to have those conversations. And our heart is just to help you feel like, one, you're not alone. Two, like we're going to get into some really nitty gritty conversations. We're going to get down to the real stuff that we've all walked through, because ministry is messy because people are messy, and there is never going to be a way of getting out of that.
That's right.
unfortunately.
Till we're in heaven.
And one day
Lord,
people are going to be easier, maybe.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and we know that a lot of you have church hurt.
Yeah.
It's very normal. It's
Unfortunately,
but
it
it's
happen. Yeah.
pretty much happens to everybody. I would say.
I think so.
Because it's people, right?
That's
and
right.
trying to do this thing well and figure it out. So we know there's deconstruction process that's happening for a ton of people our age.
Yeah.
Sadly, there's a lot of people that
see, for sure.
that are so hurt, that they walk away from
They're just
the
bailing.
church altogether. Yeah, it's I mean, I get it. And so anyways, we just want to hold a space for wherever you're at in this process, and we want to be a safe place and create safety among worship leaders together at a common table.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that.
So that's why we're here.
And that's what this podcast will hopefully achieve.
Yeah.
Will be that safe space for you.
Mm-hmm.
Safe space for
Safe
you.
space.
I can't talk.
I know.
Listen, I'm about to start a podcast and I can't even speak right.
I know. It's okay.
It's all good. Again, we're going to be real. We're
We're just going to be clunky in front of you guys.
Yeah. Is it okay? Can we do
Yeah.
that?
Can we do that?
Can we be clunky?
I think that would make, I think that's just more fun.
I know, right? It's entertainment.
It's
at its
entertainment.
finest.
That's right. What's fun, what I was thinking about when you were saying you love mentoring women, which is so true. So before Jenna shares her story of like becoming a worship leader, because you've got to know like who we are.
Yeah.
Why would you listen if you don't even know who we are?
Yep.
So I moved to Nashville when I was 22, and y'all, I didn't even know how to write a check. Okay. And that's how we had to pay our rent, was we all paid our portion. So I moved into a house with amazing women. I was really fortunate.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And moved into this beautiful neighborhood. And Jenna kind of like oversaw the rental and was like she was just like the more mothering, like, just she wasn't as
Paid
green.
the bills.
Yeah, she
My
paid
name
the
was
bills.
on all the utilities.
Yeah, it was like felt so safe entering into that space because Jenna was always so safe and so warm and consistent, and I felt so fortunate I got to live with her. So I didn't know how to write a check. I got out of college. It's so sad. Like,
they should really teach that stuff.
I know, in school.
How are they not? I mean, I didn't know how to do my taxes in my 20s. So
oh yeah,
definitely should have been in high school learning that. But
for
anyway,
sure. My children will
be
taught differently about money.
sure.
Anyways, that's a whole other podcast. But like, Jenna was sweet. I literally came to her room and was like, "Hey, I need to pay my first rent, and I don't know how to write a check." And y'all can judge me. There's so much privilege. I know.
Me too, though. I love it.
She was so kind. Anyways, that's Jenna. She's safe.
Fun.
She'll teach you how to write your check. And here we are now. We've grown up. I've grown up.
Now you do know how to write checks.
I know how to
now
write a check.
Nobody even writes checks anymore.
Now it's just like,
well, okay.
Now it's Zoe.
Yes. Venmo me.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that's so sweet. I love that. That is a fond memory I have as well. I love taking care of people, and I love teaching. And so it was like fun for me. I'm like, oh, let me show you, because I was making checks when I was 5.
Yeah.
Like,
you were ready to be an adult.
I was making them out of paper. I copied a check from my parents. I was like, I'm making my own checks.
Cute.
I don't know why I wanted to be a grown up when I was 5 so bad.
I love it.
Yeah. And now I want to go back.
Cute.
Can I
now
be 5 again?
Yeah.
If only we knew. Oh. Yeah.
This is kind of like being a kid, though. It's like leaning into our creativity and like it's fun. It's very fun.
Experimenting, jumping out there.
Yeah.
No clue what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
How it's gonna go. Love it.
But it's gonna be fun. We're gonna have some fun guests on, people you might know and recognize, and we're gonna give voice to people that you would never hear from, that have so much wisdom to share on all of these things, and I am stoked for that too.
Yes,
so you're gonna hear a little bit of everything.
That's right.
So Jenna's gonna share her story of how she got, what she's been through. We'll try to keep it concise, but hang on for the ride. She's lived lots of lives. It's awesome.
It's true. I have. I'm gonna just kind of center in on worship leading and how I kind of got here to this moment. Even, I'll start here. I grew up in the church. I was one of the kids whose parents were the very last people to leave the building because they were talking to everyone all night, all day, all morning. But my parents are awesome, and they modeled so well for me what a healthy relationship with Jesus and the church should look like. They did ministry as well. Like, my mom cleaned our church growing up.
Wow.
So like we would be with her on Thursdays sometimes, and she would go up and clean the whole church by herself. Wow. Sometimes I would help, which was fun. Get a little Windex in there.
Yes.
So amazing. And my dad was an elder. My dad helped lead worship for like he was a worship leader before I was born, actually, I think, or right around the time I was born, and then like in a very like small Baptist church, mostly hymns, no like major like mainstream worship stuff, but so I kind of feel like that was already in me a little bit as a tiny child. I was exposed to that already, but then I met Jesus when I was 4. It's such a fun story. I feel I love telling it, but like I was in my room by myself, and we had this little picture on the wall near my room of a little child praying like on their knees with their elbows on their bed and their hands folded, like head down, and like I don't know, it was the "now I lay me down to sleep" kind of prayer. And I remember walking past that all the time, so I thought, that's what I'm supposed to do. So I went into my room by myself, sat down on my knees with my hands up on my bed, and I just remember praying, and it is so fun. Like Jesus literally just met me in that room. He walked into the room, introduced himself, and was like, "Hey, I'm yours, you're mine. It's going to be a great adventure." And I was like, okay. Goodness. And I just remember having that moment with him. It was so sweet. And I came out of my room. I remember my mom was making something in the kitchen. I remember coming out to talk to her about it, to tell her. I don't remember what I said, but she did remember and wrote it down in my baby book. So I have, she knows what I said. So she said that I came out and I said, "Mom, I gave my heart to Jesus. I prayed to him. I trusted in him, and I worshiped him." And I can't imagine.
You're joking. No, your theology was already amazing as a 4-year-old.
I guess so. I don't know. It really was just him. It was just Jesus.
That's
because
so pure and precious.
I know.
I didn't know this story.
Oh, yeah. That's so fun. Yeah. I just remember it was so real. Even now, it's like I remember it like it was yesterday, because any time I've had doubts about my life or what I'm doing, or like, is he real? Is this real? I go back to that moment because I know it was real. There was nobody leading me in a prayer. It was really just him coming
just the Holy Spirit
introducing
just guiding you.
Yeah, it was really sweet. So, and I can't imagine as a parent, you're like, your 4-year-old walks up to you and says, "Mom." I mean, I can't. It was so precious. Him.
I
know, like I don't know, and I was always very verbal as a child. I would say esophagus at like 18 months, so I was like, okay. And this is why I started a podcast, because I love to talk. But I've just always been a talker, and so I just could always really express myself. Even verbally. So words are important. Obviously.
That is the sweetest coming to know Jesus story
it's
ever.
It's really fun. I know. So I have been walking with him for a very long time, and I feel like that's where worship started for me, not even just in musical form. Obviously, like I was exposed to it a lot. I was at church. I was ingrained. It was ingrained kind of, but I have always just found it fairly easy to tell him how I feel about him, to talk about how great he is, to tell him how great he is and how much I love him. So it's just kind of always come kind of naturally to do that. Because worship, as we will talk about on a later episode, is more than just music. Worship is a lifestyle, and your whole life really sacrificed on the altar. But we will dive into that later.
Totally.
So I met Jesus at a very young age and started kind of that from there. And then my journey of congregational worship leading really started, I was about 14, and not to make a long story longer, but I was really terrified to sing in front of people on stage. Like just the idea of getting up at church and singing a song was like terrifying to me. I would get nervous thinking about it. And then we had these monthly youth gatherings where like other churches would come and bring kids, and like we would have games and then worship and then games. And so I remember one time I got asked to lead like for just background vocals, just to be on stage singing background. So I said yes on a whim. I was like, sure, because I was alone.
Do you remember the song? Do you remember the set list?
I wish I remembered.
Do you remember
they
your
were
first
probably
solo?
very unique. Like I do remember the first song I sang by myself. Okay, back in the day we called it singing a special.
Oh, same.
Did you guys call it that? Yeah.
Everyone raise your hand if you had a special at church. Everyone, you can hear the Avalon song coming on.
Love it. Yeah.
Adonai.
Oh my gosh. I definitely had that. I think I actually still have a lot of my cassette tapes.
Yes.
Like the cassette background tracks that you like give your church sound guy, and then he pushes the button and the song starts to play, and then you're up there and you're like,
you had to order those or something.
We had a Christian bookstore called Mardell. And it had an entire wall of tapes.
Jenna, I forgot about this.
Yeah.
Because we all had to do that.
Yeah, you had to go buy a soundtrack
You
tape.
had to buy.
Yeah.
Ours was called Heaven and Earth.
Oh my gosh,
That
amazing.
was the Christian bookstore
Yes,
in our,
I
and
love
I
it.
would just look forward to the Jump 5, like memorabilia,
my
like,
gosh,
or
yes.
not, whatever you call it,
Oh, yeah.
like section coming out.
yeah.
That was like my, like Disney World.
Oh yeah, it was amazing.
Oh, it's going to be so rich.
I love it. Our Mardell even had these little booths where you could go in and listen to the key to see if it was the right key. You put on headphones.
booths?
They had booths. It was bougie. It was great. It was
Mardell's?
awesome. Mardell.
What?
Yeah, I think they're still there, actually. I'm not sure. OKC, represent Mardell if you're still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So
You sang a
definitely.
special.
I
What
did
was the
sing
special?
a special. I think the first special that I sang, I'm trying to remember. Oh my gosh. I feel like I want to say it was a Jackie Velasquez song.
Yes, Jackie.
I
We
wanna
love
say-
you.
I want to say okay, when I was 16, I think this might have been it. So when I was 16, my parents for my birthday, they gave me a recording session at this little recording studio in Oklahoma called Christian World, which I interned later there my senior year of high school. It was great. It's so connected.
so
but
funny.
they could buy an hour of
Yeah.
time. So I
Yes.
recorded for my birthday. I got to record that song "I Promise" by Jackie Velasquez, which is like
Okay.
all about saving yourself for your future mate. It's all about being pure. It's really sweet. It's a sweet song. So yeah, I recorded that, and I think I sang it. I'm pretty sure I sang it at church. Oh my gosh! And I sang
So
lots.
pure.
I sang lots of them. It was so fun. So once I kind of like
You
got
broke
up
in.
there,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this isn't bad. I had somebody with me. I wasn't
Yeah.
all alone on a stage.
Yeah.
So it got easier. And then I just remember the next month I wanted to do it again, but I hadn't rehearsed with them. I didn't know how it worked. So I just asked, hey, can I sing again tonight? And he's like, oh, yeah, you didn't rehearse with us. No, sorry. I was like, oh, okay. So I was a little bummed. And I told my mom about it. She was there. And she's
Yeah.
like, well, why don't you just ask the Lord to put you where he wants you? And I was
Wow.
like, oh, that's good advice,
Wise mom.
I know, right?
Simplified it.
Yeah. So I remember that night just being on the ground with all the youth kids, just worshiping and being like, okay, Lord, if this is where you want me,
Yeah.
that's great. I just put me where you want me. And I really have been praying that prayer since then. I mean, it's served me well,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
And so, I don't know, a few months maybe after that, one of our youth leaders called me and said, hey, we want someone to lead worship for our youth on Wednesday nights, and we want it to be you. I was like,
wow.
okay.
You didn't even have
I
to
really feel like I
knock
didn't.
the door down.
I know, it was crazy. We had a one guy, youth kid, playing guitar, and I sang, and that was it. It was like 10 kids. It was so small in our little fellowship hall.
Yeah.
I'm totally aging myself right now, but like we had the transparencies, the clear transparencies on the projector.
Yes,
That was
yes.
our no pro presenter.
Yeah.
No PowerPoint.
I had
this
lots
was
of
it.
those myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was fun. So it was like before all those good things.
Ugh.
I
If
feel
only all you
ancient.
youngsters just knew what that was like.
Yeah, had
It
to
is.
put
It
the
is
next
just
page up.
something
It was-
special.
It was. It really.
That
I'm
era
honestly-
of worship, like
Yes.
anything people take away from this podcast, it's let us brief you on 2000s worship
real.
culture. It was rich.
All those 90s and 2000s they were Vineyard. There were so many good
Oh my
things coming out
gosh.
then. It was
Darlene
great.
Check.
Come on,
We
old
love you.
Hillsong.
Yes.
Oh, it was so good. So yeah, that was really where it started for me, was leading
Yeah.
this really small group of kids. And then not long after that, I ended up, it's crazy to me how it all just snowballed, but I ended up leading for our main gathering, like for our monthly gathering. Yep, there. And then this is when I'm still 15, 16 years old at this point.
Baby Jenna.
Then my pastor is asking me to lead for the entire congregation. So I'm like a 16-year-old kid
That's a
leading
big
worship.
responsibility.
I know, and I look back now, and I remember saying no the first time he asked me, because I was like, I don't know. I need to like pray about it. I gave it a couple months, and then he asked me again, and I was like, okay. Yeah, I will. And so I was leading worship for our whole church at 16, which I think about. I was like, man, he must have really trusted me. Like,
yeah, totally. And saw something on
it's
your
amazing.
life.
I guess. Yeah, it's amazing. And I'm grateful for that, because it really
I
kind of
love when
got me.
pastors do that.
Yeah. And he had a few things to say about how I led. You know, he had
Sure, the feedback.
feedback to offer.
Yeah,
which
we'll dive into all that too, people.
which I really didn't at the time. Again, I was a kid. I really didn't know what was happening. I was like, okay, yeah, sure. I don't know. I'm just worshiping. I don't know. Yeah. After that, spent a few years doing that, leading for the church. And then I ended up playing guitar actually around the same time I started leading.
Okay.
So I started playing guitar. Didn't lead worship with it, but I started playing and then writing almost immediately. As soon as I could play chords, I was just
that just took off for you.
Yeah, it just happened. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just wrote a song. It was crazy. Wow. So I just started writing a ton, but most of my songs were like, the very first songs I wrote were definitely very Christian, very like, not quite corporate worship, but kind of like had that CCM vibe or feel. They were just about me and the Lord or the cross and all those things. And then we ended up leaving that church.
Okay.
It was a pretty small church, but I think it was right after I graduated high school. My parents were feeling like they wanted a bigger pond for us.
Yeah.
And also there were some leadership issues, which we will also probably discuss later.
Happens. It happens.
So yeah, I started playing guitar. We left that church, and then I ended up going to Bridgeway Church in Oklahoma, which is so sweet, Oklahoma City. We were there for a really long time. Charlie Hall, are you familiar with Charlie Hall? Charlie Hall with Passion, he's been with Passion forever, probably since their inception. He was the worship pastor there.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so I was stoked because one of my very first like really tangible Holy Spirit in the moment in worship experiences was with Charlie leading at a Passion event. And it was right after I graduated. So it was like, oh, this is what this is supposed to feel like. This is amazing. It was just really sweet and really life-changing for me. And so to have him as my leader was really fun.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And just really sweet. Yeah. And really fun story quickly. So the day I got my wisdom teeth out, right after we got home.
Oh my gosh.
And I was coming down from anesthesia and drugs. Charlie Hall called my house to ask me to be on the worship team.
You're like,
I couldn't even talk to him because I was like laying there.
Drugged.
I can't talk. My teeth are full. My mouth is full of gauze. And so he called. I remember my mom comes in. She's like, well, that was Charlie Hall. And I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, yeah, he wants you to be on the worship team. He wants you to call him later this week. And I was like, okay. So yeah, we talked and I was on the worship team after that. And it was so fun just leading together and leading with him and leading with the other worship leaders there at the time. And even now, I love Bridgeway. Shout out to Bridgeway peeps. I love you guys so much. Even though I never get to be there, I still miss it. They're so sweet.
They were so formative for you.
It really was. And there are definitely things that have happened there. No, again, church is messy, ministry's messy. So it's
every
like there's a lot.
One.
There's a lot. But
every single one.
But it was a really great time for me to be there at that point in time. So yeah, that was definitely super fun. So I was also doing I was leading worship for youth camps and other churches around the city. And then I was also playing shows because I was an artist as well. So I was
got the writing thing going.
Doing the writing stuff, making records, doing that.
It's amazing.
And then doing worship. So I was doing both of those things kind of simultaneously.
You're a busy woman.
I know. It was so fun. I had a lot of fun. I didn't go to college. That's really what I was doing with my life. I didn't really want a career in anything else but music.
Yeah.
So I just started being
innovative.
Yeah, I was like, well, I'm just gonna do this and make this work. So I did
love
that. Yeah, it was fun.
The one thing to know about Jenna is she is like the innovation queen. If you should see the way my mic is rigged right now, we will share it on social media. We are still getting all the tech stuff together, and she has my microphone rigged so I don't have to hold it, and it's amazing. Like, she just figures things out. She figures out how to edit. She figures out if she needs to comp vocals on Logic, she'll figure it out. Like, she's innovative. So
I inherited it. I feel like I inherited that from my parents. My dad,
it's such a good trait.
They call him Gadget Man, I think. The fire station, they call him that.
That's awesome because he just figures it out.
He just makes it work. Yep, like MacGyver.
MacGyver. I love it. I love it.
So I'm going to kind of bring my little section here to an end, but I feel like my college experience was later because I came to Nashville in 2010.
Yeah, we got to know how you came to Nashville.
Yeah, so I was driving down the road one day after work in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I was working at Starbucks.
I was going to ask what were you working?
I was working at Starbucks.
What was paying the bills?
Yes. I loved it. It was a great job. But I was thinking about recording more music. And I was like, man, I'd really love to be more involved in the production side. Okay. And so I was like, well, maybe I should go to school.
Yeah.
I could go to Full Sail. And then all of a sudden this train of thought, I thought, well, maybe I could go to Belmont. Oh, maybe I could move to Nashville. And I felt like the Lord just stopped me right there. And he's like, hey, hold on.
That's what I want you to
think about that right there.
Wow.
I was like, oh, okay. So I prayed about it a lot. I talked to friends. I talked to my parents. Of course, I was shocked that my parents were like, yeah, you should do it. I was like, what? I'm going to move 10 hours away. You didn't even want me to. I was living at home. Like they loved me being there.
Right. And you're like, you want me to move.
And they were totally, like 10 hours away. And they were just totally
felt peace with
on
it.
board. Yeah. And excited for me. It was crazy. So that was a huge confirmation for me. And at that point, I really felt like right before I moved, it definitely felt like, okay, if I don't move to Nashville, I'm being disobedient. I knew I had to move.
Wow.
And the Lord used a lot of different things. I have so many fun stories on how I got here and like the people I met and how it all is interconnected. And so hopefully I'll get to tell those at some point.
Oh, for sure.
Because they're fun. But yeah, I moved in 2010, September of 2010, with a friend of mine from Oklahoma. She moved with me, which was fun.
I love it. What an adventure.
Yeah, it was so fun. And so I got plugged in really quickly.
Did you go to Journey right away?
So I had a friend. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I had this friend. I knew of her in Oklahoma,
Okay.
like maybe ran in the same circles.
Yeah.
And then she had moved to Nashville
Okay.
maybe a couple of years before me.
Okay.
And I was reminded, my friend was like, hey, you should check her out.
Yeah.
Reach out to her. So I messaged her on Facebook and I was like, hey, are you still here? And she's like, yeah, let's get coffee. So she was actually in youth ministry serving under Aaron Nebrihoff.
Oh my
goodness. Yeah, when Aaron was the youth pastor. So yeah. She was serving there. She was a 6th grade youth leader. Shout out to Ashton George because you remember Rachel. She was her youth leader at the time. It's crazy. I know. So I ended up having coffee with Rachel and she was like, hey, I love this church. It's amazing. And I was looking for a church because I just moved here. And that's really how I got to Journey. And also she had called me one night and said, hey, we're looking for someone to lead worship. The guy that was leading can't lead all the time. Can you come on a Wednesday and lead like this next Wednesday?
For Journey students?
Yeah. And so fun fact.
Rest is history.
Yeah, fun fact. That's the night I met Mandy, my sister-in-law.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So we met. She played viola for me that night. And then Leaf Scartland played cajon.
Yes, Leaf. All is y'all. We can name drop.
I'm
name
just
dropping.
saying. I'm not intentionally, but like those are the people that I met when I moved.
Yeah.
That were at Journey.
They're just serving.
They're so
they're
sweet.
just serving the youth kids.
Yeah. It was so great.
It's so awesome.
Yeah. So Mandy played viola. And that turned out she ended up being my sister-in-law. Super fun. She's
the best.
The best.
I just wish everyone could know her, but we are lucky enough to.
Yes, we are. It's true.
Yeah.
So that we've known each other since I moved here, really. And then she married my brother, which is super fun.
I love it.
But yeah, that's how I got plugged in at Journey. And so and that's how I met Katelyn.
And I'll tie Jenna into my story when because it's all interwoven.
Yes. Oh my gosh, so fun. Yeah. So
you became one of the worship leaders at Journey.
I did. Yeah. I started leading for students, and then David
gathering.
mentioned, hey, we'd love to have you lead over at the gathering. So then I started leading at the gathering. I just was involved a lot. I was also youth ministry, was a youth leader.
Did youth camps.
Yeah,
we've done a few youth camps together.
Yeah. So I was pretty involved.
The Arts Collective.
Yep.
Shout out to Brett Mayberry.
Yeah, Brett's awesome. So fun. So many fun people. So I guess we met there.
You and I did, yes.
Yeah, we met leading worship,
Mm-hmm.
actually. Mm-hmm. And then I'm trying to think. I've been on staff in a few different church positions. Since then, I was in a few different staff positions as a worship leader, which we probably will talk about.
Yeah.
Currently not on staff anymore right now, but wanting to just serve the body however I can.
Yeah. Jenna is the GOAT, and she has so many hours of experience. This is like what you need to take away from this.
Oh, I'm just hoping and I'm hoping to do it again. Yeah. I'm hoping to lead again soon.
Yeah.
But I'm taking a little break.
Which is good and necessary.
It's been a journey. No pun intended.
I know.
Yeah.
It has.
Yeah. So
I love it. Jenna has so much experience. We're going to get to dive in. It's so hard to keep things concise when there's so much there, which is why there's episodes. But there is so much of her story that I know everyone's going to be able to relate to, being a woman in ministry, being a haughty little single woman in ministry.
Thanks.
I mean, there's just so much, such a deep well in her that I'm just so excited that we get to tap it. So thanks for sharing, Jenna.
Yeah, thank you.
Jenna was one of my leaders too.
Man.
Bringing me into the Journey world.
That's pretty crazy.
So, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's so cool.
So tell us about your life.
I know
who you are.
Who I am. My name is Katelyn. Well, my maiden name is Katelyn Grant. And now I'm Katelyn Hill. I met my husband actually at Journey. He was on staff too. So I always joke that Journey gave me a job and a husband, and I'm very grateful. And now I have children.
Yeah.
And I have best friends from it. It gave me a whole, a package deal,
which
is not always the case. So Yeah, so my background is similar to Jenna's. I started off like my exposure to music. Well, my dad was also a worship leader. So I was at church a lot too as a kid. My mom was on prayer team, like just the whole classic, like grew up in church thing. But I actually had more of a bent towards like musical theater and dance. I wasn't always into worship leading.
Oh, yeah.
And my mom, when I was a kid, wanted me to take piano lessons. And I just said, no, thanks, Mom. Like she's like, well, I feel like you're going to be a worship leader. And I was like 8, 10 at the time. And I was like, Mommy, no, I just want to be a mommy like you. And that's all I want to do.
Aww,
which is sweet that she saw it. Yeah. I mean, truly, like, you can change the world from being a mother in your home to being a youth leader to being a pastor. Like, when you're speaking things into people, it is truly like revolutionizing your world, because she planted that seed in me. And I don't think I would have considered being a worship leader unless she planted that seed. So I started taking piano lessons, and I truly didn't enjoy it. Like, I really didn't. I would write songs like in my journals when I was a kid, just in the privacy of my room. I wouldn't need an instrument. Like, they were awful. I mean, they were terrible. Like, I wasn't a very strong songwriter. Oh, they were bad. But I always just loved, similar to you, I loved expressing myself verbally. I loved expressing myself through music. And at a young age, I got introduced to the Lord, and I feel like I encountered like the presence of God at a very young age. And when I was 5, I grew up pretty charismatic, and the beauty of that sector of the church is like there is just a freedom to invite like the presence of God. Say what you will about it. Of course, we will get into all of it. Don't even worry. But like it is truly a place where like you can there's freedom to just be like, God, who are you? And the tangible presence of God is felt, I believe, in musical worship. God he just blesses that expression, and you feel and can encounter his presence lots of different ways. But there's something about song and that language that infiltrates and it shifts the atmosphere. And so I really was like drawn to that moment. So like I got to know the Lord through the help of the Holy Spirit. And at a young age, I asked Jesus into my heart when I was 5 in my bedroom too. Like just that it's very good to remember, like when you're becoming an adult, the wonder and the simplicity of your relationship with Jesus as a kid. So I just remember him being so present in my room, and I just felt like he loved me so much. And I just knew it. And I just didn't have any shame when I was a kid. You just don't have any baggage yet, really. Like, hopefully. Ideally. That's not a lot of people's story, but like mine, I had a sweet childhood and got to know the Lord in my home. And so anyways, I did musical theater. I did dance when I was a kid. And it wasn't until I was around 14 that I was approached by my youth pastor at our church. He was like, Katelyn, I see something on your life. And would you like, with my other best friend, to this day, childhood best friend, Brianna, who was way better at piano. My youth pastor planted that seed and was like, I see something on your life, and I want to give you the opportunity to lead worship on Wednesday nights. It's just the same thing.
Wow,
like,
so funny. I did not realize our stories were so similar.
Yes. So I was clunky, man. Like so clunky through it. We had like a pretty charismatic church, and they just were so gracious to let me just figure it out and like lead people and trust me. And I'm this kid and barely know chords, anything. They were so kind and shaped me and would give me feedback, and I learned how to take feedback from my pastor, blah, blah.
Yes.
And it was I'm just so grateful. And Brianna taught me a lot on the musical side, leading a band, all the things. So, man, shout out to worship pastors who just give these kids a chance. So that led to me going to college for, I went to a Christian school for leading worship, and artist development was my like specialization. And that was a really fun experience. I led worship, ended up leading worship for our school, like our campus chapels. And then we also had these ministries called, like, there were traveling worship teams. And I would travel on the weekends with a girl group, a girl band.
Love it.
And would lead worship at different churches, come back, do homework when I got home.
Wow.
And then go to school during the week, lead worship during the week. Then we get back out on the road. And it was just the most fun. I was so exhausted. I was sick half the time, wasn't sleeping, but I loved it. And I learned I really fell in love with going into different churches around the U.S. and around the East Coast and learning the beauty of all these different denominations, whoever hired us, you know?
That's amazing.
Yeah, and like being young, all women coming in and seeing really like very like well received, and just had some beautiful moments of just learning like to just love all the different expressions of the church and then different denominations, and it was just such a privilege. So then how I got to Journey was where I was on staff for 7 years at Journey. We're talking about the same, Jenna and I.
I can't believe it was 7 years.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So we, to graduate from this specific major at my school, you had to have an internship at a church over the summer, you know, get yourself immersed after your junior year into what would it be like to actually have this as a job. So I had a friend who actually went to Journey, and his family had gotten to know me through us being at the same school in the same class at college. And they said, Katelyn, you should just come. You can live with us for the summer and intern at Journey. And I just thought to myself, why in the heck would I go to Nashville when there's 1,000,001 singers and worship leaders, which is true. But they were like, let us talk to our worship pastor, which was Brett at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And
so they were going to Journey.
Yeah, they were going to Journey. So Brett was like, yeah, like we'd love to have an intern, like bring her on. And I was shocked and really thankful and also really scared. And my parents were like, you know what? Even if you don't sing at all or lead worship at all, just go in and learn. I mean, there were artists at Journey that I looked up to that were incredible, and getting to like learn from them.
Yep.
So yeah, I just kind of took a leap of faith and decided, you know what? I'm just going to take this amazing opportunity to go to this city where truly like artists are being developed, which was my specialization. And it felt like such a privilege to get to jump into this environment and go to this church. And there were artists there that I knew of that I looked up to from a distance, and getting to like just be in their wake a little bit. It was just a huge opportunity. So, and Journey's just a really special community. So I went and moved in with a family. The friends I had from school, I moved in with their family for the summer, which was so gracious for them to have me. And I just jumped into the church community. And, you know, usually from the background I had kind of come into a church first and was hired to lead worship there. Like, I, you know, was traveling with my band, and I was coming in and having to get to know the culture really quickly and do the best I could to serve, but we were hired to lead. And when I came to Journey, Brett, our worship pastor at the time, just did a really beautiful job of teaching me like, hey, we know you can sing, we know you have skills, but we want you to know the culture of the church first. We want you to know the people. Who are you leading?
That's so good.
Get curious about like their stories first. We want to get to know you. You're not just going to be this like workhorse that we don't know anything about you, and you get up and sing and just you just make this product for us. And not that that's bad or there's a right or wrong way necessarily in that. Like, when is a good time to start singing? But I loved how he pastored me in that, and I felt really like a person that mattered. And I know that's also kind of a rare thing for interns, which is another conversation too. But I felt really loved, you know, and I felt like, you know, I wasn't getting to sing, and that was humbling because, you know, you're a big fish in a small pond, and then I became a small fish in a huge pond.
Yeah.
And it was great for me. Like, yeah, could I sing? Sure. But that wasn't why I was loved. That wasn't why God had me there. And I got to learn about setting up church every Sunday. It was kind of like a transient, like it was kind of a temporary campus. Like during the week we had to tear down. So I just came and I set up. I got up at 4 a.m. and I'd get there by 6 and set up church. And it was great. And then I eventually led with Jenna and youth on Wednesday nights. And she was like one of those warm, inviting people. I didn't know anybody, and I felt like I just wanted to learn from her. And so I think we started leading some on Wednesday nights. I can't even remember.
Yeah, I feel like we led a few times.
We did?
Sure.
Yeah, I think we did too.
I remember that.
And it was sweet and safe
really
and fun. And I just appreciate like her leadership. And then I was dating somebody from my school at the time who I thought I was going to marry. And so I was like, well, Nashville, that was fun. Sweet community. Journey, you're such a special place. Loved getting to know the youth kids. I got really heavily involved with the youth worship. And but I just thought, you know, I'm going to move back to Virginia and get married and see what we do there. Yeah. And the guy I was dating worked for the school, and I just had my own plan, you know. And right before I graduated, I thought we were moving forward, and he didn't feel peace about it. And I'm so grateful for his the guy I was dating. Like, he was such a good dude, and was like, I don't feel peace about this. But so we didn't move forward. And during my senior year, I went back to school after my internship, and Journey had talked the leadership and made a position for me. So after I graduated, they had made a position for me to come back and work with Brett in the worship arts, which is just so crazy.
What a
so cool
gift.
Yeah, and you guys might hear thunder. It's thundering outside. It's like a warm, thundery night. So fun. But yeah, so I was a little confused because I was dating this guy, and I was like, well, I want to go where he goes, and is he going to stay in Virginia? Then I kind of want to stay. And yet I was feeling this pull of like, there's this opportunity to go to Nashville and like serve at this church, and you know, I have this amazing opportunity. So the Lord like ended that relationship, and I moved to Nashville. I packed up my SUV. I was brokenhearted because I just wanted to get married, and I didn't see the plan. I didn't see what God was doing. I was frustrated. I was sad. I was tired. I'd graduated college, and I was in 5 weddings that year, and I was like, what the heck?
As you do.
But the Lord was like, but you have this opportunity to like go, and you're getting a career, and you know, just cool things that were unique for a woman in ministry. And so I moved in with Jenna and the girls and started working at Journey. And soon after that, I met my husband. He was one of the other single people on staff, and we were buddies. So and the Lord just had this beautiful plan, and I was on staff for 7 years, and eventually got to, through a long series of events, got to like be one of the music directors at the church, and learn from people like David Leonard, who has been like a big brother figure for me, and he's a worship artist, and just like people like that just raised me up, and that the Lord had me with such rich community. And Jenna was a part of that community, and I just can't wait to share more on that. But just led worship for our church in Music City, and got to be around wonderful artists and people who are touring on the road and come along their stories. And so I haven't really ever been the artist myself. I have some of my own music, but I've been in a unique position to be able to sort of be in a pastoring role, more than the person out touring, but like be in the local church too. Kind of got to like double dip. It was really cool. So anyways, that is just a big part of my heart, is like coming alongside artists, coming alongside local worship leaders, because I know what it's like to be on Planning Center all the time. Yes. And to navigate working with a pastor, navigate working with teams, navigating really hard conversations, leading people older than you. Like we can talk through all of it. Oh my gosh, you know? There's so much. There's so much there. And that's why I love these. I love podcasts, because we can just have a conversation. But anyways, guys, that's a little of my story. And I'm not on staff anywhere currently either, but I lead worship still at Journey. And I'm a mom to my boys. I'm making my own music, and my season has changed. So we're going to talk about all of the things as we move forward. But we're just so thankful that you're here. And we just wanted you guys to get to know us a little bit, and, you know, just kind of see us as your friends across the table who are going to just dive into anything and everything with you, hopefully link arms with you, and even connect you to other people who are in the same season of leadership as you are. Or if you're someone who wants to become a worship leader, or maybe somebody who has just been exhausted and you're burned out, we want you to feel safe at this table with us. So we are so excited for what's to come. We love you guys. We can't wait to have guests on here that you guys and we're going to learn from too. So
going to have some really great conversations. It's going to be fun.
We're going to cover it all, guys. Strap in. It's going to be fun. Buckle up. We've seen a lot. We know you've seen a lot too.
It's true. It's like a little roller coaster. It's fun, but it's a little
fun,
scary.
Exciting, scary. You need a lot of forgiveness. In the process roller coaster that is ministry. So you're loved, you're appreciated worship leader, whoever you are, and we can't wait to get to know you.
That's right. Teammates, band members, production team crew, any facet really, I feel like, of worship, of putting what goes into putting together a Sunday morning, Wednesday night, worship night, youth event, like all of those things. I feel like everybody is so important. And so I want to cover all those things too. I want to cover
Yes.
like what's it like to be in the production realm, and like
Yes.
what you're doing matters, even though it feels like you're just kind of in the background. Like those things are super important. I think we're going to talk a lot about culture and American church culture and worship culture. There's
celebrity
a lot of,
worship culture. Yep.
There's a lot of stuff that has changed in the last several years. So
how to
I'm
navigate
excited
it.
to dive into some of that. So you can agree or disagree. It's going to be fun to talk about it either way.
Oh yeah, there's nuance. There's yes, that's a huge thing too. Is like there's some things that are right or wrong or biblical that we're going to be like wanting to shed light on, like, but also there's so much nuance in this conversation, and there is so much like what is not like what's healthy for you and what's not healthy for me, but like there's just so much we can also like disagree on or have nuance as we are all learning who Jesus is together. And you're not going to hear us say like, and this is the only way.
Yeah. Well, I might say it, but
well, if it's scripture, I would say scripture.
Yes, I know. I'm being silly, but there are things that I think we're probably opinionated about, but also like there's grace. Like I know I hate to say this because I feel like it's such a like overused term. Hold space for each other.
Yes, we will hold space.
We'll hold space for you. No, like really, we have to hold space in grace.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes. Care for one another in love, and
try to just be just follow what Jesus says in the Word, and interpret the Bible as best we can.
Yeah, we're all on one team.
That's right.
Let's play to win.
That's right.
Yeah.
We love you guys. We can't wait for next time.
So
Thanks
excited.
for tuning in.
Then we'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon, guys. See ya.